Welcome, hola, hola, hello Tritons, and welcome to day 2 of our Triton Leaders Conference on Allyship. My name is Paola Leon, Assistant Director of Development with Chancellor's Associates. And as you probably saw going on in the chat, we are all sharing in this community what we really care about. As you also might have seen, I mentioned I am currently in San Diego, California. I identify as a proud Latina, Peruvian American, first generation college graduate that cares about youth and access to education. On behalf of UC San Diego alumni and UC San Diego, I'd like to thank you for attending and engaging in an important topic, allyship. I would like to thank, little joke here, but that they kept this panel, the best panel, for last. Today, we're going to hear from graduates of the last decade. It's a term we use to talk about those that have recently graduated within the last 10 years. Its acronyms are GOLD, or GOLD. Again, something you'll hear a lot today and catches on. I like to refer to this group as our social influencers, our impact drivers, our revolutionary optimists, and ultimately, they are our future. We will discuss what motivates our recent graduates, how they inspire those around them, and why the time to actively engage GOLD is now. The panel will leave you with insights, and I know plenty of examples of ways that you can begin to engage with recent graduates, not only through UC San Diego, but as you may see, we're talking to millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, so I know they have a few things to show us. Let's please use your virtual emojis, your Zoom reactions to give a virtual round of applause for our panelists that you are seeing on screen there. So let's welcome Hamna Khan, class of 2018, coming to us live from Washington, D.C. Hey, Hamna.
Hi, everyone.
Charlie Morales, class of 2013 from San Francisco, with that little flare and pink going on.
What up, Tritons?
And bringing it back here, local homegrown talent, Nirvana Navarro, class of 2017 in San Diego.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Sunny San Diego representative also as well, Kantan, class of 21.
Hi, welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here. I know I've had a chance to personally get to know you a little bit, but that's a little bit greedy. I want our audience and attendees to really get to know you. So let's get this started. I'd love for you to bring us back a little bit to tell us about you, your student campus involvement, and what life has really looked like after UC San Diego. And I believe in popcorning over here. So I'm gonna get started with Hamna that I see on my screen first.
Sounds good. Well, hi, everyone again. So when before graduating in 2018, I was really involved in the engineering school, and I did a lot in that community. It was very tight and knit, close community as well. So everyone was very much engaged in their own ways, whether it was in a lab, being in engineering clubs or project teams. So you always saw people together in different ways. And so I was involved in a lot of different things like that. Specifically, I was in IEEE, which was a really became my home for me while I was in school. And those friendships that I made while I was in leadership positions in that club really became my lifelong friends now. And so it's just one of the memories that I've been very fortunate of. Now I'm here in DC, where I'm still acting like an engineer, but in more of a policy space. So just really redefining what it is for me to do in my career so early on. So thanks for inviting me. I guess I can popcorn it on to Kang.
Hi, I'm Kang, and I just graduated last year, and I'm from San Diego, so I went to undergrad at UCSD, and now I'm actually back at UCSD for my master's, so I haven't traveled too far. But going into UCSD, the thing that most shaped my college experience was joining Outback Adventures and becoming an outdoor leader and educator, and that kind of really motivated my first couple of years as I was kind of venturing into a space that was somewhat unfamiliar with people from where I come from. And so it was really exciting to try to introduce more people that were from my community into like this new outdoor space that I was luckily enough to be finding like acceptance in. And I was also involved in a lot of outreach coordinator activities. So they have like outreach trivia and passport to culture events. And that really fueled my love for like meeting people from around the world, just because at UCSD, there's this unique opportunity to get to meet so many international students that you don't normally get to do like outside of the college campus. And so I was very thankful for that. And popcorn to Charlie.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Charlie O. Morales, he, him pronouns. Born and raised in San Francisco, California. I come from an Salvadoran immigrant family of 15 siblings, 7 sisters, 5 brothers, and I have 20 nephews and nieces now. When I first went to UC San Diego, straight out of high school, I was struggling, so I was involved with surviving. I had to learn how to survive at that campus because I was on probation about 4 times. I almost got kicked out by the university. And so I struggled, but then I hustled as well. That's why they call me Charlie Hustle. That's my acronym. I mean, my AKA. And so I was involved with, I first got introduced to a Latino-based fraternity called Nu Alpha Kappa Fraternity. And so I was able to join, and they kind of showed me the ropes. But at the same time, I had to really, a few staff and administrators, such as the dean and the counselors, really had to pull me aside each quarter to talk to me to make sure that I survive and graduate from that institution. And so I got involved with OASIS and went to a lot of workshops, went to a lot of enriching academic programs so that I can, just survive and graduate. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I had to explore that option. And so later on, I was able to, slowly understand how the system works at UC San Diego, and then kind of get back to make a comeback. And then there's a few educators, such as the Ethnic Studies Department, that really saved my life, like literally. And Professor Wayne Yang, or Provost Wayne Yang from your college now, he was a lifesaver for me while I was there. And so later on, I got a chance to study abroad. I got to join a few different organizations and whatnot, and really get the experience. And eventually I graduated. And then now later down the line, it was a roller coaster for me, learning what I want to do with my career, and just, oh man, what am I going to do, and figuring things out. And so that's the unknown after you graduate. And so I think that's something that we're working to build on. And so I finally came to had epiphany. Wayne Yang, my mentor, was like, hey, you should work with the youth. And I told him for like 8 years, nah, I'm cool. I'm good. And I finally did it. And I went to grad school, graduated with a master's in counseling, and then I ended up working currently at 4 community colleges back home in the Bay Area, helping other students navigate the system before they even get to, let's say, UC San Diego or 4-year, if they choose that path. And so that's kind of what I do now and who I am. Let's pass it, popcorn to Nirvana.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, I think, but I'll try. Hi, everyone. My name is Nirvana Navarro. I graduated from UCSD in 2017. And a little bit about me and my student engagement. I was a transfer student, and I was one of the Chancellor's Associate Scholars Program. So I know we're not supposed to call it a full ride scholarship, but it's definitely $10,000 per year for transfer students, 2 years. Financial support program on top of the programmatic support. From coming from a very small town, small Mexican traditional immigrant family, when the first time I went to UCSD, that was the first night I ever spent away from my family. So that was definitely a big cultural shock, and also a lot of transitions, because UCSD, it's bigger than my hometown, just to give you context. So that was definitely a big learning curve to transition from being a big fish in a small town to be like a very small fish in a very big ocean, pun intended with the Tritons. And for me, my student engagement, yes, I did a couple undergrad student groups, but I always go back to CASP. I had the opportunity of having like that one-on-one connection with a great mentor on the program, and she guided me. I mean, for many years, I still call her my cast mom, because she was my family when I had like no one when I transitioned to UCSD. She held my hand about how to navigate the academia level system that we have, from reaching to tutoring services, making sure that I was eating, and telling me also where are the best coffee shops in town, because I didn't know San Diego that well at the time. And that kind of passion and connection with Cass kind of led me to my first job after college, which is actually working for the business office for Cass. 5 years later, that student that still like doesn't go away, and actually I oversee the finances for Cass, so I'm their financial analyst lead, and I'm still around. And I think the inspiration, if even when I love finances and numbers so much, I'm actually in grad school right now for accounting, it's balancing the line of like being passionate about numbers and policies and rules, but inputting that force and fire into creating bigger impact and creating better and bigger opportunities for both my portfolio and other students like myself.
Wow, the word that comes to mind is wow, wow, wow. I guess 4 times for each of you, because I know that you personally have me fired up. I see the chat as well, just definitely resonating that. Thank you so much for your openness. Thank you for being vulnerable. We're definitely on a stage here and you guys are doing it, so thank you. I know that this is the kind of leadership that we all want to see around the region, around the country, worldwide, really. And you know, I think some of you mentioned themes across like that hustle, right? Struggling, but at the same time, a theme of like, once you've kind of done that, you want to uplift and like bring others, you know, Kong talking about like exposing others outdoors, bringing those international out-of-state students and helping them out. So I love that in each of your stories, you know, you really made it even beyond you and trying to help and build that community, right? Something I know that is important for Gold. So, you know, as we talk about our graduates of the last decade and Gold, I want to be fair to everyone here and kind of put us all on maybe a similar scale of like how much we know about Gold. So we are going to play my little Triton trivia game here. And the reason why we're playing this is to really help answer the big question, which is, why is it important to engage Gold now? But ultimately, to be able to answer that question, I think we kind of got to start with some of the stats, right? Like what's the real situation going on out here? So we're going to do 2 teams, guys. It kind of makes sense for me. So team 1, you guys are going to represent San Diego. So it's going to be Kong and Nirvana. And team 2 are, sorry guys, out of San Diego, you left us, no more sunsets for you. Charlie and Hamna. So I'm going to go ahead and read a question based on a category. And as you get your final answer, I am also going to just give you guys a little lifeline. Attendees out there, if you think you know the answers, Price is Right kind of thing, you want to shout them out and help them out, you can go ahead and use that. Can't promise that's the right answer though. So let's get started. You know, the number one thing to understand about Gold are that we are huge, right? I mean, I think we're a pretty big group, and we have powers in numbers. So my question to the group is, how many UCSD alum are Gold? I'll give you a hint, it's not hundreds. So I'm gonna give you guys 5 seconds. Ready?
At 40%, I don't know what that number is, but 40%.
We need a number,
Like 200,000, something.
Okay, so team 1, San Diego's. Kong, Nirvana, what's your final answer?
I'm going to go with 75K.
You got Kong, you're good with that?
I was gonna say 300,000.
So Hamna, we just
Which one?
So Hamna,
We're sticking with our number.
Oh, like, can we do the average?
The median.
we just gotta do
I'm like, you're such a math person right now. The median of that.
Hamna,
Okay, so team 1, you said 75 and 300. Team 2, Hamna, Charlie?
76, 100,000.
Hamna, I know you're on GSC.
I should have memorized these things. How about I'll change mine to 170,000.
Okay. All right. So I had team one with 75, 300,000. And then team two saying 100,000, 170,000. So the answer is 89,000 and growing. And Charlie, you are definitely spot on. It means 41% of all UCSD alumni. So you guys were there. This was Price's Right. I mean, I think whoever said 75,000, I think was the winner. But something tied to our gold, we really are everywhere. Some of the top cities that we're in is San Diego, the Bay, LA, OC, New York, DC, Boston, and China. Interestingly enough, we are not all Gen Z millennials on there. 18% are because they went to graduate school and professional school. So there is diversity, if you will, within our gold group. So final answer, 89,000 of us, 41%. I love that. Going on to our next question, our category is passion, right? What is it that gold cares about? So the question being, what is the top motivator for gold to stay involved? What is the main reason, the number one reason why gold continues to come back and be involved with UC San Diego? So I'm gonna count you guys off.
I don't know everyone. For me, it's just to give back.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, I don't know, networking or giving back or like, yeah, something like that. I don't know what the one word is. That's hard to boil down. Even in the gold steering committee, we always talk about different elements. Everyone has a different reason. Maybe the underlying reason is that we're all Tritons. How about that? That works.
Okay. Love for the alma mater.
Let's say either mentor or empower the next generation.
Okay, the next generation. Kong, did you want to also add in anything or guesses?
Or whatever club or org they were part of as an undergrad.
Okay, like based on involvement. Yeah. And I think they all kind of tie in. So I'm gonna maybe kind of give you guys that one. So the answer is students, right? I think we know it, we feel it, we kind of said it across all fields. There's studies that show that nearly 70% of young alumni report their desire to make a difference in the lives of current students is their top motivator, right? And I think we all kind of said it, it kind of goes beyond us. We want those that follow, we want to uplift them, we want to make their experience so much better. So there we go on our passion. Last question, I don't even know what our score is right now anymore, but I know we're learning, taking it in, is on philanthropy. So the question being, what is the percentage, now you can say a percentage, Charlie, what is the percentage of gold that give back? Team one, San Diego.
Wait, give back financially?
Of the gold.
Give back, that was give back.
If it's open-ended, 75%.
I'm stick with 41% again.
I'm gonna say 50%.
Okay, wait, Kong, I didn't catch you. Which was your number?
That's since we're only 10 years at most out of college, I'm going to say a low number, like 7%.
Yeah, that's probably more realistic. Maybe like 20%.
So I do think there was a great follow-up question, and my little fingers here are doing the air quotations for what give back means, right? And I know this is definitely a topic for us. So technically 28% of gold give up their treasure, so donations and such. I think what we may also find be giving back is the 54% that are actively engaged with UCSD, right? Either serving on boards, serving on committees, mentoring students, going to Triton table talks, right? Sharing their resources and their connections. So that 54%, I think that's definitely a number that kind of sticks out to me beyond maybe the 28%, right? So, well, guys, that was our Triton trivia. I hope it was helpful for all of us to kind of get on that same page of, you know, the power behind gold, what they really care about, and, you know, just kind of how we see a little bit of philanthropy. And I know that for purposes of this conversation, it's definitely something that, you know, we'll kind of be going over. But let's go ahead. No more game time, just us kind of chatting a bit and really go through and say, you know, sorry, one step back. So one question we also get a lot is, why should gold be approached differently than other alumni groups, right? Like, what makes them so special about that is a question I get often. And so one of the things that we talk about is kind of tying in our passion and philanthropy. So one of the common misconceptions is that gold is less philanthropic. And the added layer of that is that the thought that first generation and alumni of color are less philanthropic than their peers. So I think it's kind of time to debunk that. Wanted to kind of toss it to you guys and tell me, what is it something that you're passionate about? I know you expressed it a little bit. And how does that align with how you give back, whether it be your talent, time, or treasure? And I'll leave that open to you guys if anybody wants to jump in first.
I'll start. I think for me, throughout the different stages of my academic journey, there's always been, let me rephrase it, there's not even like doors closed, there's just not doors. And it's up to me to try to figure out like the direction along the way. But also kind of the opposite side of the spectrum, even when there are no doors, I had amazing mentors along the way who give me that light of like, okay, you don't have a door, but you have a window. Let's try, like, let me show you how to get through that window so you can move to the next phase. And I had that in high school. I had that in community college. I have that in UCSD. And now within this role, even though I'm like the money lady and policy lady, whatever, I'm always trying to bring that context of like, what can I do to create those doors for students so they don't have to find a window. And even though my work is very behind the scenes, when I see the programs that the units are putting in and even alumni, it's like I had an impact. Like me doing the work, I'm seeing the change. And going back, that's kind of like in the professional role, but more on the alumni side, it's just like bringing that sense of family that I didn't have when I started UCSD. And I'm hoping the next generation, other students have that sense of family.
I can go next. For me, the electrical and computer engineering department was definitely a home because our department chair at the time genuinely gave his time to students to just listen to their ideas and their points of complaints and concerns in the department. And because he was so actionable on trying of us in the engineering community, I joined the Alumni Advisory Board for the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. And at the time, the alumni who was the president was going through a lot and needed to step down. And so they said, Hamna, you did so much as like running, the clubs and this and that, like doing activities. You should be able to handle this work. I'm like, I just graduated. You want me to become president of this advisory board? I don't know what that means. I took it on because a lot of what they needed was organizational skills, that just to organize whatever it was that we're supposed to be doing. And it was a lot of fun because what I tried to do more of was allow all the student clubs that had ECE students in them to come to us every meeting and tell us, what are you working on? How can alumni be involved? And through that, we were able to collaborate on a lot of projects, on their hackathons, on building an alumni mentorship program, which second year, where we've connected close to 150 alumni with over 200 students, both undergraduate and masters. And it's just phenomenal because I feel like I've met a lot of alumni, and I've also met a lot of students who really feel that our community is just getting stronger, and it's just a wonderful experience to be involved with. So I think it was easy to just see that connection once I was kind of given those opportunities around me. And part of why it's easy to connect is because the faculty and the department really wanted alumni to help them, because we bring something to them and they wanted more, they can help make things happen. Certain ideas require every part to work together, and they were one component. And because they always listened to us as students, I knew they would listen to us as alumni. So that was definitely part.
I guess kind of alluding back to what I talked about earlier about really being interested in all the opportunities that UCSD afforded me to be able to meet so many people from outside of the US. I think something that I'm passionate about is just trying to figure out how to become a better world citizen, and that I really want to try to understand like more people from wherever they may be from, and the programs that UCSD has, for example, International House and all the events that they put up have been really instrumental in like my education and just learning more about how to empathize better with people. And I've been able to give a lot of time back to those programs as well. For example, one of the events that they have each week is Friday Cafe, where you get to experience cuisine from a different country. And I think in addition to the time, like the talent portion, I've been trying to, one of the main interests that I've had is in capturing stories and just having that network of students that you get to meet each year, which is kind of the downside to meeting a lot of international students, is that some of them are only here for a year. But then also the cool thing is that now you have this network outside of like the US that you potentially could connect with there. So a little bit rambly, but yeah, the thing that I'm passionate about is learning about other cultures, and the programs that UCSD has allowed me to explore that, and that's something that I have been interested in giving back to, whether it be my time or maybe eventually in other ways as well.
Can you rephrase the question? I had great answers. I just need to get back on focus.
All good, all good. Keeping it real. I know this will be an easy one for you, which is, what are you passionate about, and how does that kind of align with how you like to give back to that thing you care about, whether it have been your talent, your time, or treasure?
Got it. Thank you. So what I'm passionate about, I really didn't know my passion when I was at UC San Diego. And so that's why I wasn't as motivated to do well academically, and at the same time struggling with being underprepared. And so not till later on that I found some of my passions is mentoring and working with the youth, because growing up in a low income community, you're proximate to the pain that and so that pain was seeing people, friends get locked up. The school to prison pipeline is real, and I understood if education is a filtering system for power, access to power, and I work from the most disadvantaged communities, people are getting addicted to drugs, people are going to prison, people that I know, like I grew up with. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna pivot this other way, but I don't want to be like the exception to the rule when you look at the statistics. And so that's where I really kind of made me realize that, man, I really care about the next, not just me winning. I want to see everybody else in my community winning, whether they choose to go to a four-year university or not. Most people, the quickest way you give up your power is by thinking you don't even have any to begin with, right? And so once I went to UC San Diego, I was like, I gotta graduate from this institution. I even dropped out my second year. I said, I'm out of here. I had a horrible experience. I was homeless for the first week on campus. I was trying to figure out how to get housing. It just a whole bunch of stuff. And so dropped out, went to the community college my second year, and then came back my third year and trying to figure things out. And that's kind of when I met the ethnic studies department. And then Professor Wayne Yang, man, just kept saying, you should consider working with the youth. I ended up interning at a group home when I was at UC San Diego. So I really liked working with youth. I feel like I know how to speak to my people. I know how to keep it real. Like I don't have to, I still think I'm professional because I'm effective in what I do. And so I may have a different approach, but that's what's unique and authentic to me. So it's like, how can I try to be somebody else? And so later down the line, I was like, okay, I care about my youngsters, the next generation, because I got 20 nephews and nieces. I want them to succeed. I want them to have access to at least higher education for them to choose themselves. At that time, I was only 12% Latinos in at UC San Diego. I was like, okay, how can, if it's only 12%, but California's 38% Latinos, there's a discrepancy there. Where's that gap? What are those, what's happening there? And so I currently now, I volunteer to go to juvenile hall and do group counseling sessions for the youngsters that are locked up, predominantly male students of color, Black and Latino majority. And so I care about that stuff. And so getting people into UC San Diego is, I need to understand how the system works on at multiple levels, so I can help guide and counsel the youngsters that I work with now at the different community colleges to understand what's happening in real time. And so I'm passionate in caring about the students, but also I want to coach them in navigating the higher education system, because I know the numbers now. I know the research. You can't fool me. And so I know who falls through the cracks. And so that's, if you're looking at it from an equity standpoint, you have to see who are the students that we're failing as an institution. What can we do strategically to do so? And so you need to understand and take a deeper dive, and then you need to get proximate to the pain of what these students are experiencing or communities, so that you as an institution or as an organization can consciously make actions that will align and work on that. I'll leave it there.
It definitely felt like a drop the mic moment. Just had to say that. I would use my emoji if we were texting or something right now. Thank you so much. I think, you touched on, those experiences you had as students, right? That those families you built, maybe those lived experiences that definitely like cemented your thoughts. Now as alum, you look back on it and I was like, so much of that, it all started from where you were a student, right? Like, would you really be here talking to me if you hadn't had those experiences and hustles and moments and people? I heard so many like professors that I'm like, I have to get them on my list and meet them. So, I just, our theme of like so much of this conversation about recent graduates, because we maybe just recently graduated, have that stronger connection with our student experience and about what that was like. And if it's not a strong one, if it's not a positive one, if we didn't feel that support, then it's difficult to want to make that comeback, right? So kind of transitioning into platform, this is, I think, a really key thing with our graduates of the last decade. There's been, as you probably have seen, right, and based on the numbers, a dramatic demographic shift in our alumni. And that's kind of happened over the last few years, and so the need to shift in how we communicate and create compelling content to keep our alum engaged has become evident now, like more than ever. So I'm curious to, as to how you normally communicate with, your friends, your families, your coworkers, and how that kind of varies when you really care about something and you want to amplify this message. How do you kind of play with those communication channels? Like, is it a TikTok? Is it a text? Is it an email? What is your way of kind of going about that?
I would say that it was easiest to sell like my love for the university or how I was so involved was in person, because I think when you're face to face with people, like that animation and light in you comes out and people really see that genuineness of like, wow, you really care about these things. And that's how I convinced like a lot of people to get involved, was because I would see them and I would tell them about things that they can be doing and how involved I am. And to a certain extent, they would reflect and they would tell me later, Hamna, seeing you be involved just made me realize that like, maybe I should do something too. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. But it was just the conversation in itself that made them reflect on like why they should be connecting back to, because they, like you said, they still feel something, they just don't know what to do with it. And that's part of it, is that once you allow them to think about it often enough, they'll start to think of ways that they can get involved, and maybe they'll ask for advice of what they can do. And at least for my friends from the engineering community, I can already tell them, go there, do this, do that. These are your options, and figure out whatever you like to do the most, whether it's being a mentor or spending your volunteering time doing XYZ. So it's really just kind of those face-to-face interactions that made me really sell the passion and the love for what I've been able to do, which is hard during a pandemic, but you do your best.
I think for me, kind of jumping into Havna's comment, is having the one-to-one interactions is definitely important, but also the relationships on the network. That is important because, for example, something I can think of, a friend from undergrad that we actually met through CASP. She's a program coordinator within UCSD, and she had a student who didn't have a mentor to do his senior thesis. And she sent me a text like, hey, this student needs to graduate. He needs to do his senior thesis. He's interested in finance. Like, are you willing to be a mentor? And I'm like, I don't have no clue what's your program about, but sure, I'll do it. And I'm enjoying so much being his mentor and bossing him around. And just like seeing him like grow and like having those authentic relationships. So that's more like alumni connections in a way. And also a couple of years back, we had like CAST alumni reunion. That was just like me, a couple friends getting together, and I literally told every single friend, like, you need to bring at least 1 or 2 people to this alumni event. Like, we're making this happen. It wasn't just like a random like email communication or like LinkedIn. It's like having those connections, authentic connections on the ground. At least for me, that's what makes the significant difference. Because especially right now with social media, it's just so easy to like countlessly scrolling, but like you're not making an impact. You're just like wasting time and like dumbing down. Like you need to build those bridges, like have those strong connections.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm an Outback like outdoor educator, and we have almost, I'm not sure, about 15 to 20 years of alumni on our Facebook group page. And I've just seen so many instances of like alumni coming out that I never got the chance to meet while I was in undergrad, but them coming out to support or like share what they're doing and help to connect current students with like whatever they've been doing post-grad. And so I think like that established network has been very useful for me to learn about what people are doing outside of UCSD. For example, we had a student who is now graduated and she's getting her, I think, master's at somewhere up north, but she was doing a lot of projects in Tijuana with the local gardens there, and also on the like, UN Council in like San Diego downtown. And I think a lot of the initial momentum that she was able to get with like other students supporting her was through the like network that we had built over the years with Outback. So that was, if I had a message to amplify, that's where I would go.
Thank you, guys. It sounds like we need to do a lot of in-person meetings, right? That's how I need to continue to connect with you guys. Did anyone want to add in anything else? I'm sorry. No? Okay. Oh, okay. I see you unmuted. I'm like, you got the mic. Now's the time. And so another topic that kind of comes up is for gold, and I know you mentioned it a little bit on connections. Authenticity breeds trust, right? We can see through branded content. We can tell when something's being sold to us. Gold and Graduate to the last decade are essentially king of content creators, right? Like we drive that. We are those influences. So as we build our gold community and really strengthen our ties, what do you think of performative allyship? And what can organizations or companies at large do to combat that?
I'll tackle that one. So when when I started at UC San Diego 2006, there was no iPhone. It didn't exist. I had to MapQuest how to get to San Diego because I couldn't afford to even go to the whatever that orientation is, preview day, whatever they call it before you go to school to have a campus tour. I couldn't afford it. I didn't even have a car. And I know I couldn't rely on my family. And so technology has changed the way we operate in the world, but I strongly believe heart to heart, person to person is the most effective way of communication or even marketing, a recommendation from people that you trust. And so to build authentic trust and to be an ally, you have to know your audience, and you have to understand the subtleties between the gold alumni, our audience. There's a wide range of ways that we communicate. And so you need to get proximate to what their experiences are on their day-to-day just the day-to-day communications. And so while social media is a useful way to market and have exposure, I think those one-on-ones, those phone calls, those small groups, those conferences, finding a way in terms of building equity for an organization or the university, you have to figure out where your interests converge. That's why we're asked what your passions are, what are students' passions, so that you can align those. And then from an equity perspective, the flip side of equity is you have to give up some power and give it to others so that they can self-determine what they want to see the change from their community, because they're approximate to the pain to what's happening. And so when you're able to create a gold steering committee like this one, right? You're giving us some power, right? A platform like this. And so if you're able to do that for different causes and have collaboration where all the stakeholders are there, then you're gonna have some movements there. You're gonna have some progress, but you have to include everybody, all the different stakeholders, because if you are trying to make changes for students and don't have students at the table, it's not gonna work. And so I'll put that there.
I think for me, to add on Charlotte's point, yes, having the stakeholders on the big table, it's important, but also being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, if you really want the stakeholders to speak up, you need to accept the fact that it's not going to be an easy conversation. You need to build the structure so that people feel comfortable, instead of oh, I'm just here to fill out a quota. I'm just here to check a box. We as a community, in order to engage alumni, is that we don't have a cookie cutter alumni group anymore. Even within Gold, it looks very different. From Charlie's generation, apparently there wasn't iPhones at the time. For me, I came to UCSD with a Galaxy. I changed to the dark side after I graduated and I got an iPhone. Now, apparently iPhones still exist and Galaxies, but even now, how the students communicate, it's different from social media. And then a big factor that we don't know what's going to look like, it's the pandemic. For many incoming freshmen, let me take it back. For any recent college grads who just graduated, their last normal year was freshman of college. Right now, at this point in time, we're 3 generations behind. That we as people are not getting the emotional, mental, social, health, economic impacts of the pandemic. So even Gold, it's going to be redefined, because someone who lives in a low income, minority, very collectivist family, they might be doing their homework in a little room that they share with 5 people, and they get constantly interrupted, and that's going to have an impact on their academia and their knowledge of UCSD and their retention of UCSD, versus someone who might be better well off, and they might be able to have this space to even have a home office or a school office. So it's not just and I think I'm probably skipping to one of the questions in the front. It's not about creating a single perfect formula. It's our job as recent alumni. It's to lower ourselves down and meet people where they're at, because also everyone in society has different types of trauma with the pandemic and different levels. Some people lost loved ones, some people lost jobs, or even just like the loss of normal. It's lost for all of us, whatever it was like normal like. And I'm taking over the time.
Yeah, and just kind of building off of that, that's exactly why we started the alumni mentorship program, was because we talked to students right when the pandemic was affecting them and said, how can we help? And a lot of them just needed more connections to alumni to really, navigate whatever they were going through, still finding internships, jobs, research opportunities. And another, to speak to, the question you asked, Paula, my department and us as an advisory board are working with the Inclusive Engineering Consortium, which actually works with historically minority serving institutions. So the HBCUs and I forget the term for Hispanic universities and colleges. So they cover all of them. And what we've done is that a lot of companies, they want to hire these tech companies that want to hire, engineers. They want people who are diverse as well. And, we as a department are tackling that by building the pipeline to get people who go to these minority serving institutions to do their undergraduate there, do their master's and PhD with our department, and then go on to work at Intel, go on to work at XYZ company. So we've actually built out that program right now. And we hope that as we work and develop these relationships, that we're actually building the pipeline, where we're giving opportunity for people to do graduate studies within UCSD to learn those skill sets, so that these companies that already come to hire from UCSD are now hiring more diverse sets of people within our department. So that's one actionable way to get more institutions involved, is to build these partnerships from multiple fronts. And I think it's going to be pretty successful just based off of how conversations have been going so far.
I guess just one last quick thing to add on is that a lot of us have grown up being targeted by these big companies like Facebook and Google, and we've seen a lot of slick advertising in our lifetime. So I think we're very quick to see when something is inauthentic and just slick advertising. And so I think the main takeaway is to do something actionable as opposed to just trying to have perfect messaging. So with Outback, for example, one question that we asked ourselves is, why is the outdoor educator space has been traditionally very much people of color have been very much underrepresented. And one of the main reasons is that the pipeline to getting into these guide positions is typically going on a trip. And that's how you learn about outdoor recreation. And so one thing that we're trying to build out is our summer trips, having a scholarship fund and trips designed specifically more for people of color to be able to access them. And through that, I think we've begun to see more diverse pools of guides come into the program. And so setting up more actionable programs like that, I think, is more beneficial than trying to get better. Sorry. Cool.
Yeah, it's path forward, right? Let's get, I'm like, oh, this conversation is like, makes me want to reflect so much, but I know we are getting close to time, and I do want to give everyone a chance to dive into some questions. And I think I would love to hear from each of you. I kind of call it one comment, one ask. One final word of maybe advice or anything you'd like to leave us with. And then, we're building a community. So is there something UCSD, is there something, I know our alumni network that is on right now, is there something we can do for you? So one comment, one ask.
I can start. One comment, it's easy to find joy in volunteering. It's really about remembering what part of the university was home for you and going to that. And then the ask is, how can we make it easier to connect with each other? Because I moved out here to DC a month ago and I don't know other alumni here, but I know there's a lot. And I just want to know what's the easiest way to find everyone. And then I can make all these new friends. So connections.
Honestly, I'm blinking out. I was like, one comment, one ask. I think for me, comment is and obviously this is like still pandemic time, even with Omicron, so it's not going to happen overnight. But what can we do to continue fostering the relationships that we have in undergrad? If that makes any sense, because many of us, the generations who are kind of on their way out of being out of gold and more to your traditional alumni, they're being disconnected out of UCSD, so it's going to be hard to bring them back. So how can, I guess the ask will be, how can we find ways to continue fostering those relationships with like UCSD, not just UCSD, but the passions of the people and whatever made their UCSD journey like unique and impactful.
Kong or Charlie? I know my question was a great one.
Take it away, Con.
Yeah, I'm also kind of blanking out. But
Advice for our students, right? I know we talked so much about students, and I'm like, maybe there's some of them out there listening. Any final words for them?
So I had a professor, Kumao Kenyatta. He's like this Grammy Award-winning producer, and that was one of the greatest classes I ever took as an undergrad at UCSD. And he said that his favorite thing, or one of his favorite things about UCSD students was just how much they came out to support each other. And so I think my advice is whenever you see someone reach out to you, like even if it might inconvenience you a bit, like it's always worth it to show out your support, because you never know what you might find. Yeah.
All right, y'all. I know majority are staff here, UC San Diego. So understanding that we are facing a global pandemic called COVID-19, but we are also facing another global pandemic called social injustice. And so I think that we need to put more respect on diversifying the staff and treating, especially recruiting staff of color to represent more of the community. And so to build equity, if you take care of the staff and treat them well, it will reflect to how they treat the students. And so when you treat the students well, then it will bring an overall, it would uplift the community. So that's what I asked for y'all, and to continue centering the most vulnerable students at your work, and really reflect for creating those spaces for the future. Somebody asked earlier, what are events you could do in person? And so I'm going to quickly say that UC San Diego, I recall it being in silos. So your department kind of operates differently, and you don't really interact and engage with other departments. So you need to find ways to engage and break those silos so that you can build events out in the community. For example, I'm gonna have a Cinco de Mayo event. Okay, that's not for me. I'm not Mexican. I'm not whatever the case may be. These events need to be multicultural, to where people are like, oh, I'm open to collaborate and meeting up these people and learning more, to exchange that knowledge. That's diverse. That is through engagement. And so I'm saying that so that I'm gonna leave that there. One big idea that I had was like, okay, I'm gonna have a car show, because I know that lowrider culture is big in the Latino community, but now, and it brings in the family, is a family oriented thing. But not only that, I know my Asian friends that have a different type of cars, the import cars. And so finding ways to collaborate that. And then, okay, I know my hip hop community they know some performers, let's bring them on campus. And then let's bring a big name performer, so that there's not just a concert, it's more like a family engagement environment, to where they're able to do that. Okay, I know my barber down the street at UC San Diego, I still go see him when I visit down there. Hey, I'm gonna invite them up. I'm gonna cash them out. I'm gonna see if he could do free haircuts for our students. okay, I know some people that braid hair and do whatnot. So let's bring them on and bring the families, let bring as many free things as possible that bring local communities and businesses together on the campus, and so it can be an engagement type of event. So that's one big example that y'all can work off of if you would like to. I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Charlie, thank you for helping me with that, trying to control the chat here. So yes, that question, I don't know if you guys want to, in 15 seconds, also suggest what suggestions do Gold alumni have for live in-person events, and ideally, if anything, in San Diego.
I'm thinking of the traditional alumni events that always happen. Like, I know there's like a fancy dinner every February. That's more like a networky donor event. I don't know about you all, if you know about other kinds of like gold events.
My favorite ones are when I can get my alumni to go to like big campus events that students are hosting, like hackathons, because it's very like something everyone does as an engineering student. So I get them to come back and walk around and talk to students. So for me, those are my favorite ones. And hopefully we can do those once, you know, this pandemic allows us to be in person again more permanently.
I've always wanted to travel by hot air balloon. And so maybe we start in one place and then we hop on a hot air balloon and then we end up in another place.
I love it. That is, I think, a perfect way to kind of like tie this all back in, because I know we've just like my thoughts have been like flying of how amazing you are. You truly are so inspirational, just doing your thing and really bringing that to this conversation. So thank you so much to our inspiring panelists, Hamna, Charlie, Nirvana, and Kong, and Triton leaders around the world. Thank you so much for joining us at the 5th Annual Triton Leaders Conference. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our revolutionary optimists, our future really, and our graduates of the last decade. We look forward to seeing you next year. Bye, guys.